Alright guys, compliment of the season. Uh, I welcome you to today's class. Sorry I couldn't make it down due to some unforeseen circumstances for this week class, but then I'll be around next week. So that we won't lose too much, we'll be able to cover much ground. Hence, I've decided to improvise through the online class. So we have majorly three topics to go. We have the theory of meaning. We look at the theory of meaning. Then we look at Ludwig Wittgenstein's philosophy of language. Then we look at Bertrand Russell's philosophy of language. But for today, we'll be discussing the problem of meaning. Then I'll be giving you your term paper topic. You have to submit the term paper on the 4th of February. You have to submit it on the 4th of February. So that day will also be your test. So your term paper 4th of February, then your test. So when the time comes, I will give you your term paper topic. I will just call the last 4 digits of your matric number. So you should be used to this. You are used to this method anyway, so it shouldn't be strange or new to you. So let me just quickly start. The problem of meaning, like the course, philosophy, language, and communication. You know, one thing about communication is complete when we are able to have a feedback. And feedback is impossible without proper understanding of meaning. So one thing we have is understanding of what? Meaning. You know, like I was discussing in the class some times ago that when you say something, you discover that you said something to your friend or to your colleague, but the way the person took the issue, it was quite different or strange to you, and perhaps you didn't expect that person to interpret your statement or your action in that way. Then you tend to say, that was not what I meant, I didn't mean it that way. What are you trying to say? That means a misconception of what? Meaning. So understanding is vital in philosophy of language. I'm coming. So let me say this. When we communicate, what we try to communicate is we try to communicate meaning. Now imagine that someone just told you something, then you nodded and reply, I understand what you mean. This simple example tells us something important about communication process. That is, that when we communicate, what we are attempting to do is to transfer meaning or what we mean to others. I hope you get my point. So when you communicate, you are trying to pass a meaning of something to someone else. Now, meaning can be in two ways. The idea of meaning could therefore be linguistic in form or extra linguistic. Sorry. It could be linguistic in form or extra linguistic. And meaning is linguistic when it is communicated to another person through medium of language. You know, we have verbal form of communication. Language could be verbal, it could be written. So you should be able to know the distinction between written and verbal form of communication. So when we use medium of language, the meaning could therefore be deduced from the concept that the word of the sender expressed, or through the context in which the sender uttered the word. It is extra linguistic when it is not communicated through language. Meaning in this extra linguistic sense often refer to interpretation that a person has about a phenomenon in the world. For instance, a person could be asked about meaning he or she reads into a movie. That means at that point they are trying to ask you that what is your idea. You know, sometimes when I ask you a question in class, you respond by saying in my own opinion, or what I understood it to mean. Are you getting it now? That means you are trying to give us a different perspective from what I said earlier. You are trying to paint a different picture from what you from what I've been able to explain and you understood from me, and in passing it to me, you expect me to be able to understand it from your own perspective. I hope you get the point. From your own perspective, you expect me to be able to understand. And sometimes when we have a little bit of argument or disagreement, I say, no, that's not what I meant. This is how I meant it. You didn't get the point. I hope you understand. So at that point, meaning is what? Extra linguistic. Then meaning could be extra linguistic in the sense that you could use body language. You know, we discussed that in class when I said, and this body language could be conflicting at times. It could be conflicting at times in the sense that, you know, like the example I gave in class, your parent, they could wink eye at you like this and just wink their eye, and with that you get a meaning to what they are saying. But you know that winking of eye also could mean different things. For instance, maybe you have a visitor and they are discussing something and they don't want you to be present there. They could wink eye at you and you get it that they are asking you to stand up. The same way, you might be standing in a point and they want you to come and meet them, maybe in front of a visitor. They want you to join them there. They could also wink that same eye at you. The same action now with different meaning. So that is why we say there is problem at some point with meaning. The same action, winking of what? An eye, with different meaning. Now let me give you an example now. Let's say we have a king in Nigeria, and the king had a little disagreement with one of his subordinates, and he just as the subordinate was trying to prove his point, the king angrily told the guards that get him out of here. You know, and the guard went ahead, pick up the man and kill the man. You know, get him out of here could mean different things. With a king who they know him to be very wicked, once they could have known him to be very wicked, and once he said you should get someone off his side, it means you should go and eliminate that person. And it could also mean that you should just take that person off that particular location at that particular time. So it could be in that way. I'm coming, trying to check out something for you. So now, why do we try to have proper understanding or clarification to meaning? Now, to be able to remove vagueness, to be able to remove vagueness and ambiguity. Vagueness and ambiguity, when a word is vague or when a word is ambiguous. So in clarifying your meaning, you are able to remove vagueness, you are able to pass your thought, you are able to express your thought properly without any form of misunderstanding. And in doing so, various theories have summed up or have come up to be able to discuss the idea of meaning, that when we have a linguistic expression or a form of communication or a body language, we will not be limiting this to linguistic expression now, because communication could also come as a result of body language now. So when we have a linguistic expression or a sort of body language, how do we understand the meaning? We have various theories that have been discussed to help us or to aid our understanding of meaning. The first one is the referential theory of meaning. Referential theory of meaning. And the referential theory of meaning simply states that a meaning of a particular linguistic expression or a medium of communication must lay reference to something in particular. It must lay reference to something in particular. Now let me just read it. The most influential and commonsensical of this theory is the referential theory. The simple idea behind the theory is that linguistic expressions have meaning because they stand for something outside of themselves. It must lay reference to something. So when I say a book, I should be able to lay hold of a book, that oh, this is this thing called a book. So when I say go and get me a book there, the person try to understand that you are trying to say get me an object called a book. Are you getting my point? So it must lay reference to something in reality, something that exists in outside of the expression. It exists independent of the expression. So the theory is influential because it seems natural as an explanation to what gives linguistic expression meaning. For instance, this is my dog only convey meaning to me because I actually see a dog. This is the mountain. It is more of an empirical definition or an empirical conception of meaning. It must lay reference to something we have to behold or something we can lay hold to empirically. So that is what the referential theory of meaning is all about. It is a theory of meaning that supports a linguistic expression or a means of communication having an empirical reference, so to speak, in a philosophical term. Now, then another theory of meaning I will be discussing is the idea theory of meaning. The idea theory of meaning. And when you say idea theory of meaning, it's just like the opposite of the referential theory of meaning. It's like the opposite of the referential theory of meaning because it simply discusses meaning to be in form of concept. You know, I taught you concept and conceptualization. I taught you concept and conceptualization. So from there you should be able to have the idea of this. So it represents mental content of the idea which the linguistic expression stands for. It represents mental concept. For instance, I want to study physics. You know, you can't hold physics. It is not something you can hold, but it is abstract, but it represents a mental concept. This idea is powerful because it gives us the obvious insight that the function of language is to communicate thought from one person to another. It simply says the idea of language is to communicate thought from one person to another. So when as I'm explaining this to you, you know what I'm explaining now, you cannot hold it empirically. You can't hold it empirically. And by so doing, I'm saying I could be saying that I'm trying to communicate a thought to you. So that is what it's trying to say. So it is communication of a thought. So when we communicate, the theory simply means you are communicating a thought, an idea to that person. And I'm not sure, have you done I don't know if you've done idealism and realism 200. Okay, idealism and realism. You meet that in epistemology anyway. You meet idealism and realism in epistemology. So when you if you've been taught well and good, you'll be able to understand what I'm saying properly and better. But if you've not been taught, you'd understand when you are being taught and be able to make reference back to what I'm saying now when I talk about the idea theory of meaning. That when you communicate a mental content, a thought, an idea to people. So it means that when people communicate, when they say a statement or when they make a body language, it is an idea that they are communicating. So the other one is the use theory. The use theory claims that meaning of linguistic expression is not an entity, but rather can be found in the use which the expression serves. The use theory. Now, the use theory is one way or the other relativistic. It's relativistic in the sense that when you communicate an idea or when you pass an information or you communicate something to someone, what you are simply trying to do is the person should understand it in accordance with what that linguistic expression is being used for at that particular time. What is being used for at that particular time. It is the use theory of meaning is very similar to what Ludwig Wittgenstein called the language game. the language game theory, but we discuss the language game in class next week, so don't let us run too much into that. But I'm coming. In other words, a word or expression means what component user or that language says it means. For instance, kitchen for the competent speaker of the English language means a place where cooking is done. So it means what is the use of what you are trying to say? In what context are you using it? The essential idea behind this theory is that it sees meaning as an intersubjective matter. And you know, when they say something is intersubjective, it means that it is relative among people. So it sees it as relative. So okay, now for instance, epa in Yoruba means groundnut. Epa among the Delta people, the Asaba people of Delta State means to kill someone. Are you getting it? So when you just say epa to a Yoruba man, it's like, I want to buy groundnut. He understood it as, I want to buy groundnut. So you just give the person groundnut. But to a Delta man, it means kill this person. Are you getting it? So the meaning is different, although it is the same linguistic expression. For instance, when they want to greet in Kogi, they say, how do they say it? Adamida, Otamide Adamida. That's how they say it in Kogi. Otamide Adamida. Like they are trying to, that's pleasantry, a form of greeting. But in Yoruba, if you hear Otamide, you go and visit someone and the person say Otamide Adamida, you should just run for your life. It means that my enemy has come, where is my cutlass? In Yoruba. So imagine you go and visit someone and they say my enemy has come, where is my cutlass? You just run away. So the use, what is that linguistic expression being used for? That is when you are able to understand the meaning, the context in which it is being used for. That is the meaning. Then the other theory of meaning is the verification theory of meaning. The verification theory of meaning. I hope you are getting this concept. If you have any question, you ask in class next week. According to the theory, what makes a linguistic expression meaningful is the method which leads to the verification of the expression. In other words, a statement like the cat is on the roof is immediately meaningful because the hearer knows by what means he or she can go about proving. So a word is meaningful when you can verify it. When you can what? Verify it. That means if I can't verify a linguistic expression, then I can't say that it is meaningful. It is the principle of what? Verification. So a linguistic expression is meaningful when I'm able to verify it. So if I say it is raining, it is meaningful when I can go outside and discover that what? It is raining. So for instance, if I say it is raining and someone peeped through the window and discover it's not raining, you say, I don't mind him, he's saying rubbish. That is what you are going to say. Or he's saying nonsense. That's how you know a madman. How do you know a madman? You know a madman because the words he or she is saying cannot be verified. A madman is also communicating. I don't know if you are getting my point. A madman is also communicating. He's uttering some words. He's saying some things. But the truth is, those words cannot be verified. And so we believe that the madman is not communicating. But in their own realm, they are communicating. Of course, you know, mad people believe that we are saying we are mad. The way we look at them as if they are mad. They also look at us as if we are the one that is mad. So it is a principle of what? Verification. Prove or demonstrate the meaning, and therefore the truth or falsity of a statement is empirically verified. For you to know if a statement or a proposition is true or false, you have to be able to verify. For instance, you can say like God exists, stealing is morally wrong, souls are immortal. You see, this kind of statements, we have debates about it because some of these statements cannot be verified. For instance, when we say that stealing is morally wrong, to what extent can we justify the idea that stealing is morally wrong? You will have done that in your elementary ethics anyway. You will have done the idea of situation ethics and hedonism, whereby we have principles that could be able to justify stealing. The idea of God exists. To what extent can we verify the idea of God exists? You will have done that also. I think, would you have done the idea of God exists? Well, if you have not done it, you omit it. It's not part of the course. So, lastly is the pragmatist theory. Pragmatist theory. The pragmatist theory. From the word pragmatist, this is a theory that is an American theory. It was postulated by Charles Sanders Peirce. We call him CSPS. Charles Sanders Peirce is an American philosopher. It is believed that for a linguistic expression to be meaningful, then we must check how practical it is. For a linguistic expression to be meaningful, then we must check the practicability, how practical it is, how resourceful it is. You know, the pragmatists believe that for you to say something is good, let us test it first. If we say that something is good, let's test it, let's put it into practice. If it brings a positive result, then we can say that that thing is good. So now let me just say this. The meaning of a linguistic expression or a statement, according to the pragmatists, is determined by the consequences of the application of that statement. Yeah, is based on the consequences of it. So when you say something is meaningful, you look through what? The consequence. You look at the relationship between a statement or an intentional experience and an objective reality which the statement is supposed to correspond to. Meaning derives from the relationship between statement and human experience as a relation rather than an entity. Meaning for the pragmatic involve three terms: a sign, what the sign stands for, and the response or the effect of the sign. So meaning for the pragmatic school is it must have a sign, what it stands for, and the outer effect, the consequence of it. So for the pragmatic school, meaning is majorly practical, what can be put into practice. That is meaning for them. So that's that for the theory of meaning. We'll discuss Ludwig Wittgenstein for the next class, but let me quickly give you your seminar or your term paper topic. It's not seminar now, your term paper topic. Come in. I wrote it down, so let me look for it. Okay. Matric number 0350. 0350. Discuss critically 5 models of understanding. 5 models of understanding. Discuss critically 5 models of understanding. I taught you that in class. 0350. 0350. Then the second person now. Okay. Second question 0373. The first person is 0350. Second person is 0373. 0373. Discuss the value that communication must possess. At least 5. Discuss at least 5 values that communication must possess critically. So when I say you should discuss, you are not in 200 level, you are no longer in 100 level. I expect you to be able to interrogate those issues, bring out problem in those issues. Like, you don't just accept them like that, you critique them, you tell us what is wrong with them. Even if they are perfect, you give us justification why you think they are perfect. So that is what you do in philosophy. You don't just take concept and accept it like that. So discuss at least 5 values of communication. That's 0373. Then 0313. 0313. Let me see. Critically interrogate the role of culture in language and communication. Critically interrogate the role of culture in language and communication. That's 0313. Critically interrogate the role of culture in language and communication. The fourth person is 0356. 0356. 0356. 0356. I'm thinking about what to give you. Critically discuss. Conceptualization and its role in communication. Conceptualization and its role in communication. Conceptualization and its role in communication. That's 0356. 0356. Then 0349. 0349. 0349. I'm trying to look at something, discuss. I try to discuss relevant language class. Okay, last person now. What are the functions? Or now, let me put it this way. Language is being used by a philosopher to achieve several purposes. Interrogate the tool of language in the hands of a philosopher. How does philosopher use language? What do we use language to do as a philosopher? What are the things we use language to do? I remember I taught you that. What do we use language to do as a philosopher? What are the things we use language to do? Remember when I told you the quote of A.J. that I said a philosopher who does not know the use of language is like a mathematician who does not know how to handle numerics. So 4th of February you will be submitting the term paper and you will be writing your test. Once again, compliment of the season, and I wish you a happy weekend. Take care.